A billionaire was ready to give up everything for one woman. Not because she wanted his money, not because she gave him conditions, and not because he was weak. The truth was much sadder than that. The woman he loved was slowly slipping away from him. And she loved him too. That was the painful part. So why would a man with wealth, power, and a successful company walk away from everything he built? The answer did not begin with sacrifice. It began with fear. And before the story ends, one man will have to ask himself a question that changed his life forever. Was his fortune protecting the woman he loved, or quietly pushing her away? My name is Patience, and welcome to Etanalog. Rain rested softly on the windows of Stephen's mansion. The house was beautiful, too beautiful sometimes. Large rooms, soft lights, expensive furniture, the kind of place people admired online. But tonight, Stephen barely noticed any of it. He sat on the couch holding his phone. Joy's chat was open again. He had already opened it too many times. Still no reply. He dropped the phone beside him and rubbed his face. This feeling was becoming familiar, and he hated it, because Joy was not acting like herself. Stephen was not the type to panic. People around him often said he stayed too calm. Business problems did not easily shake him. Meetings, money, pressure. He handled those things quietly. But this was different. This was Joy. And lately, something felt wrong. Not fighting, not anger, just distance. The soft kind that slowly enters a relationship and sits between two people. And Stephen did not understand it. The strange thing was, the signs had always been there. He simply never looked at them that way. Joy loved him. That part was never fake. But his world, that was different. She never enjoyed fancy places. Whenever he suggested expensive restaurants, she usually laughed and chose something smaller. Somewhere simple. Somewhere quiet. She never liked staying too long inside his mansion. And she almost never followed him to company events. Stephen noticed those things, but he never attached meaning to them. He thought that was simply who she was. Simple. Private. And honestly, he loved that about her. Joy never cared about showing off. Sometimes she teased him about his lifestyle. Not cruelly, just playfully. One evening, she looked around his living room and said, "Stephen, this house is so big I might need directions to find the kitchen." He laughed so hard that day. That was Joy. Warm. Playful. Easy to love. But even during happy moments, there were times she suddenly became quiet. Sometimes during dinner. Sometimes after looking around his house too long. And when he asked what was wrong, she smiled and said she was fine. He believed her. Because love sometimes makes people slow to see pain standing in front of them. A knock came. Stephen looked up. Noble entered carrying food. He took one look at Stephen and stopped walking. Then he sighed. "I knew it." Stephen looked at him. Knew what? Noble placed the food down. "That this face is because of Joy." Stephen smiled faintly. "You greeted me with accusation." "I know my friend." Noble sat down. "You only look this restless for two things." Stephen waited. Bad company meeting or beautiful woman. That finally pulled a small laugh from Stephen. Noble pointed proudly. "See, I am useful." Stephen shook his head. Noble opened the food pack. Then he looked at Stephen again. "You know this is exactly why I stay single." Stephen smiled tiredly. "Here we go." "No, seriously." Noble took a drink. "Women will stress a man's life." Stephen laughed quietly. Noble continued. "For all we know, she could be angry because you forgot some date from 2 years ago." Stephen shook his head. "It is not like that." Noble raised his shoulders. "They are complicated." Then his face softened. "But jokes aside, what happened?" Stephen looked toward the rain. And this time the smile left his face. "I don't know." Noble became quiet. Stephen rubbed his thumb against his phone. "We did not fight." He paused. "But lately, she feels far away." Noble listened. Stephen continued softly. "I call. She sounds distracted. And when we talk, it feels like she is trying not to stay too close." Noble looked at him carefully now. No jokes this time. Stephen rarely spoke like this. And when he did, it meant something mattered deeply. Noble nodded once. "Then stop guessing and go see her." Stephen looked at him. "I plan to." Noble pointed at the food. Good. But eat first. Stephen smiled. You care too much. No. Noble leaned back. I just refuse to watch love destroy my friend before marriage. Stephen laughed again. And for a moment, the heaviness eased. Only for a moment. The next afternoon, Stephen drove to Joy's house. No convoy. No noise. Just him. He liked coming there. The neighborhood felt peaceful. Children played outside. People greeted each other. Life moved differently there. And strangely, he always felt calmer. He parked and sat inside the car for a few seconds. Memories entered quietly. Joy laughing. Joy arguing with him over food. Joy refusing expensive gifts. Joy dragging him to simple places she liked. One time he booked a luxury rooftop restaurant. She looked at the place and whispered, I hope this food knows it is expensive. He laughed so hard he almost embarrassed himself. Then she made him leave and buy food somewhere smaller. That was Joy, and he loved her for it. But even those memories carried another truth. She never stayed long in his world. Not fully, not comfortably. Stephen had noticed. He simply never understood why. He stepped out and knocked. The door opened. Joy stood there, and immediately he felt it again. She looked beautiful. Simple dress, soft face, the scar on her left cheek resting quietly where it always had. But her smile looked tired, not fake, just tired. Stephen, he smiled gently. You disappeared. A small smile touched her lips. I've been busy. He looked at her. You have said that for days now. She stepped aside. Come in. Her uncle greeted him warmly from the sitting room. Stephen greeted back. The house smelled like tea. Normal. Comfortable. But Joy still felt far away. She brought water. Asked about work. Asked how he slept. Everything sounded polite. Too polite. And Stephen noticed. Because Joy was usually warmer than this. After some time, she went into the kitchen. Stephen waited, then quietly followed. She stood near the sink filling a cup. He stayed by the doorway. Joy. She looked up. He kept his voice soft. Talk to me. She forced a small smile. We're talking. You know what I mean. The smile faded. He moved a little closer. Not too close. Just close enough. If something is wrong, let me know. Her hand trembled slightly. Stephen noticed. His chest tightened. You've been avoiding me. I'm not. You are. Silence. He looked at her carefully. Did I do something wrong? She quickly looked away. And that was when he saw it. Tears. His heart dropped. Joy. She wiped her face immediately. But another tear escaped. Stephen looked completely confused now. He stepped forward. What happened? She shook her head. Nothing. Then why are you crying? Her lips trembled, and seeing that scared him. Because this was not normal. This was not the playful girl he knew. She looked tired, emotionally tired, and somehow that hurt him. He lowered his voice. Please talk to me. She looked down and whispered. I'm tired, Stephen. His face tightened. Tired of what? But she only shook her head again. Then quietly said, I need some air. And before he could stop her, she walked past him. Stephen turned immediately. He wanted to follow her, but Joy's uncle spoke first. Stephen! He stopped. The older man looked toward the door she had used, then quietly said, Let her be for now. Stephen remained standing, confused, worried. He looked toward the door again, then sat down slowly. His voice came low. Sir! He swallowed. She has been avoiding me. His eyes stayed on the floor. I don't understand what is going on. The older man folded his newspaper and placed it beside him. No long speech, just silence for a moment. Then he looked at Stephen and quietly asked, Stephen, how much do you really know about Joy? Stephen looked confused. Sir, what do you mean? The uncle slowly leaned back and began speaking. Joy was born into a wealthy home, not billionaire wealth, but a comfortable and respected one. Her father was a senior board member in a large company, a man who worked closely with politicians, businessmen, and powerful people. From outside, their family looked perfect, like a successful and happy home. But that life had danger inside it from the beginning. When Joy was still a child, she was kidnapped because of her father's wealth and position. Her parents were terrified and had never faced anything like that before. Her father wanted to involve the police immediately, but her mother was afraid that if authorities got involved too quickly, the kidnappers might harm their daughter. In fear, they paid the ransom. During that kidnapping, Joy tried to escape. That attempt turned violent, and she was badly injured on her face. She later received proper treatment and recovered physically, but the scar remained on her face, and the emotional fear never left her. After that day, she was never fully the same again. Her life became more controlled after she returned. Security increased around her. Her parents became more protective, but something had already entered her heart: fear. She learned too early that wealth could attract danger instead of safety. As she grew older, her father continued working in the same company. Over time, he became a strong candidate for the position of CEO. That position brought power and influence, but it also created enemies. Other powerful men in the company also wanted that position. They did not want her father to succeed. Around the same time, her father discovered corruption and illegal financial activities involving some of those same people. Instead of staying silent, he refused to cooperate. That decision changed everything. He was suddenly accused of money laundering and financial crimes. The accusations spread quickly, and people believed it because of the influence behind it. His reputation collapsed. The company removed him from power and took away everything connected to his position, including their home. Joy and her mother were forced to leave their house and move into a smaller place. Their life changed overnight. The comfort they once knew disappeared. For the first time, Joy saw her mother struggle emotionally and financially. She saw shame, gossip, and pressure from people who once respected them. Still, she believed her father would return home and prove the truth. Then came the news that changed everything again. Her father died inside prison during a violent riot. The official report called it prison violence, but nothing about it was ever fully clear. Some people said it was planned. Some said it was suspicious. Some said he may have been moved or taken before anything could be confirmed properly. His body was never recovered, and no one ever gave the family a clear answer. There was only silence. For Joy, there were no explanations she could hold on to. Only confusion and pain. Her mother could not survive that pain. The shock, the loss, and the emotional weight became too much. She suffered a heart attack and died not long after hearing the news. By the time Joy fully understood what had happened in her life, she had lost both parents. She became an orphan. Her aunt and uncle took her in after that. They were not rich, but they were kind people. They gave her a simple life. No luxury, no pressure, no fear of powerful men, no politics, no business wars, just peace. For the first time in many years, Joy experienced something different. Not excitement, not wealth, peace. And in that quiet life, she discovered what she truly wanted. She did not want mansions. She did not want luxury. She did not want a life surrounded by power. She wanted peace, but the fear never fully left her. The memory stayed inside her. Even when she smiled, something inside her remembered what wealth had taken from her. That is why when she met Stephen, she loved him deeply, but something inside her never fully relaxed. He was kind. He was calm. He treated her like a normal person. She loved him for that, but his world still existed around him. His company, his mansion, his lifestyle. Even if he did not show off, it was still there. At first, she tried to fit into it. She followed him sometimes. She stayed in his house briefly. She went to simple places with him when she could choose. But she never stayed long in the places that reminded her of wealth. She always felt more comfortable in simple spaces. As her love for Stephen grew stronger, her fear also grew stronger. Because loving him meant she might have to live inside that world again. And that was the same world that once took everything from her. So slowly, without even planning it, she began to distance herself. Not because she stopped loving him, but because she did not know how to love him and survive that world at the same time. That was the truth behind her silence. That was the truth behind her distance. That was the reason she cried in that kitchen. And that was why the uncle asked, "Stephen, how much do you really know about Joy?" Stephen did not move after the uncle finished speaking. The words stayed inside his head. Everything about Joy's life kept repeating in his thoughts. Her childhood, the kidnapping, the scar on her face, her father being accused, the prison death that had no clear answer, her mother's death, and Joy left alone in a world that once looked safe. Stephen slowly lowered his head. For the first time, he was not thinking like a man who built a company. He was thinking like a man who failed to understand someone he loved. He kept remembering her, the way she smiled but sometimes looked far away, the way she avoided expensive places, the way she never stayed long in his mansion, and the way she became quiet around his world. He used to think it was normal. Now he understood it was fear living inside her. Stephen stood up slowly. He did not say anything to the uncle. He just walked outside. The air felt heavy. Joy was in the small garden, sitting alone with her head slightly down. Stephen stopped behind her and stayed silent for a moment, just looking at her. This was the girl he loved, but also the girl who had been carrying pain he never saw. Slowly, he walked closer. Without saying anything, he placed his hands gently around her from behind. Joy froze slightly, then realized it was him. Stephen held her carefully, like he was afraid she might break. "Your uncle told me everything," he said softly. Joy's eyes filled immediately. "I'm so sorry." Joy tried to speak, but no words came out. Her lips shook. Stephen held her tighter, still calm. "I can't imagine what you went through." Joy's tears fell quietly now. Stephen lowered his head, slightly near her shoulder. "You didn't deserve any of it." Joy shook her head slowly, still crying. Stephen continued, "And I'm sorry I didn't see your pain earlier." Joy finally broke down completely, but she did not move away. She just stayed in his arms like she had been holding everything inside for too long. Stephen did not rush her. He just stayed there with her. No more words, just presence. After a long time, Joy turned slightly and held his hand. Still crying but calmer now. Stephen spoke again softly. "I'm here now." Joy nodded slightly. Still no full words. Just tears and silence. They stayed like that for a long time. Later that night, Stephen could not sleep. He sat on the edge of the bed in silence. The room was dark, but his mind was not. He kept seeing Joy's face, her tears, her silence, her pain, and the truth he had just learned. He leaned forward and held his head. Money suddenly meant nothing in that moment. Success felt far away. All he could think about was one thing. If love hurts the person you love, then what kind of life are you really building? He stayed awake for a long time, just thinking quietly and changing inside. That night, Stephen understood something deeply. He could not love Joy and still remain the same man he was before. Something had to change. Not for the world, but for her. The next days were different. Stephen became quieter and more serious. He started reducing his involvement in his company. At first, people noticed small changes, then bigger ones. Noble came to see him one evening. "You are not yourself again," Noble said. Stephen looked at him calmly. "I am thinking." Noble sighed. "About her again?" Stephen nodded. Noble stayed quiet for a moment, then said, "This thing you are doing is not small." Stephen looked away. "I know." Noble watched him carefully. "You are ready to leave everything." Stephen did not answer immediately because the answer was still forming inside him. But something inside him was already clear. Joy was not just someone he loved. She was someone he could not lose. Not like this. Not because of his world. Weeks passed. Stephen made his decision slowly. Not rushed and not emotional, but sure. He stepped down as CEO of his company. People were shocked. News spread quickly. But Stephen did not explain himself to the world because the world would not understand. Only Joy would. And that was enough. One morning, Stephen called Joy and asked her to meet him. She came quietly. Stephen stood in front of her and looked at her for a moment. "I have been thinking a lot," he said. Joy listened. "I don't want you to ever feel afraid again." Joy looked down. Stephen stepped closer. "I don't want my life to hurt you." He paused. "So I am changing it." Joy looked up slowly. "I left my position in the company. I left everything that connects me to that world. Joy's eyes widened slightly. Not because I failed, Stephen said, shaking his head softly, but because I want a life where you can breathe. Joy's lips trembled. Stephen stepped closer and held her hands. I want you. Joy started crying again, but this time it was different. Not fear, not pain, relief. I don't need that world if it means losing you inside it, Stephen said gently. I just want a simple life with you. Joy held his hands tighter. Yes, that was all she could say. The proposal was simple. No luxury, no crowd, just truth. Stephen knelt in front of her. I don't want a life without you. Joy cried and nodded. Yes. The wedding was small, traditional, with only family and close friends. No display of wealth, no attention, just love. After that, they left the city far away to a small, quiet town. No mansion, no company, no billionaire life. Just Stephen and Joy starting a simple life together. And this is where their actual story begins, because life after love and marriage isn't as simple as it looks. Would you like me to continue with what happens after they start living in the small town? Tell me in the comments. And also, thank you for watching this story. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like. Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more.